With Watkins Glen thankfully in the rearview mirror now, we have just Daytona to look at before the NASCAR playoffs begin. And with it, we have a pretty simple way of looking at it. Most that are underneath the cut line need to win. Only 3 are mathematically in the points fight, and if one of those guys below them wins or one of them wins, they're in. Bubba Wallace right now is 16th, plus 32 and currently in the playoffs. Ty Gibbs is the guy he's 32 points ahead of in 17th. And Daniel Suarez is the extreme long shot, 43 points back in 18th. If there is no new winner in this race, Bubba Wallace needs to finish just 25th or better to beat Suarez into the playoffs. And that is if Suarez doesn't get a win, of course. If he finishes second, the best that Bubba needs to do is 25th. As for Ty Gibbs, if he finishes second, the worst Bubba has to do is 14th or better to beat him. And that's saying if Ty Gibbs and Daniel Suarez win the first 2 stages and get all the max points outside of a win that they can. Suffice to say, it's looking like as long as the 54 and 99 don't win, if the points battle stays the way it is, Bubba Wallace is a pretty big lock in as long as nothing goes horribly wrong. But how do these guys do at Daytona and in the next-gen superspeedways in general? Well, we have had, at this time, 10 superspeedway races in the next-gen era already. 4 this year, 6 last year. For Bubba Wallace, he currently averages 25th this season at these races with 2 DNFs and 45 laps led. He has not finished better than 20th at the Daytona 500 onwards this year, and last year wasn't much better as he did have a second place in the 500, but other than that, he finished all of his races between 11th and 17th. Bubba Wallace may be one of the better plate racers, especially in the Gen 6 era, but it is not translated well to the next-gen era. And while he has speed, he does not have luck. So Bubba Wallace is somebody who is going to seem like a good pick, but probably isn't if the numbers don't lie. Ty Gibbs, on the other hand, has had less experience, and in that time with less experience, he has had a 25th place average as well at the superspeedways this year. He has had a top 10 with a 9th at Atlanta earlier in the season, with 4 laps led and 2 DNFs as well. For me, Gibbs just does not run up front enough for me to consider him a true threat at the win. He has the speed and he has teammates that are all in the playoffs right now, so he will have drafting help from the Toyota side come Saturday night. Of course, so will Bubba Wallace, but I think that Gibbs will take precedent. And then there's Daniel Suarez. Suarez is interesting because he's very hit or miss, as most drivers are at these tracks, but the hits are a little bit better and better each time. He is averaging an 11.5 average this season at the superspeedways, with a top 5 and 3 top 10s, but only 6 laps led. He finished 29th at Atlanta, yes, but his other finishes this year are 6th, 9th, and 2nd. And when you look at some of the other finishes he's had, he finished 3 of the 6 superspeedway races last year in the top 10, led a lot of laps, and has shown a lot of speed. Seeing how Ross Chastain is currently in, you have to think he will at least help draft with the 99 up towards the front. So out of these 3, my power rankings for them is Suarez is a clear favorite to probably go for the win in this. Bubba Wallace has the experience, and I think he will be good, but he's second. And then Ty Gibbs, because he's just, in my opinion, not adjusted yet to Cup Series drafting, is third out of them. If I had to pick, I do think Suarez is the only one of these 3 that will actually compete for the win and probably not get caught up in a wreck, but of course it's Daytona, so I'm probably completely wrong. Let's look at last year's winners, though, starting with Chase Elliott. Elliott did miss one of the races this year with Atlanta, and overall it has not been very good. His best finish so far in the 2023 season at these tracks is 12th at Talladega, where he led 18 laps, but other than that, he has been a non-factor at the superspeedway races. Last year, he won Dega and Atlanta and was the best superspeedway racer, but it is not translated to this season, and this team overall has just seemed off. So he will probably be a threat, but I don't think he's a favorite by any means. Then there's Austin Dillon, who won last year's Daytona cutoff race and got himself in. Other than the second place finish at Dega earlier in the year, There's really been nothing in 2022 or 2023 that says Austin Dillon is a favorite in this race. He hasn't finished better than 20th this season at the super speedways. He has 2 DNFs this year, and last year he had 3 finishes below 25th. So he may have the speed, but he's gonna need a lot of luck like last season. Austin Cindric is an interesting one. Last year, he had 3 top 5s in the 6 super speedway races, and he won the Daytona 500. This year, he has not even got a top 10. Yeah, sure, he's led laps at the Atlanta races, but those don't translate as well as the Daytona and Talladega races do to this Daytona race. So Cindric is somebody who I think, again, much like most his season, will take a step back of how he usually does. It will be good for him at least that he's the lone Penske car without a win, so Logano and Blaney in theory would go with them, but again, just like with all of these drivers, they all do want to win too. Now, there's 3 interesting characters I want to look at. 3 guys who have stuck out to me in different ways, and while we're not going to talk about everybody else in depth, I think these 3 or 4 actually are pretty interesting. Starting with Erik Jones. Erik Jones, for me, is interesting because looking back, other than the Daytona 500, he has finished pretty good at all of these races, no lower than 17th. And last year, other than the first Atlanta race, he led laps in every single super speedway. This year, he has had a DNF, yes, in the 500 and 11th at Atlanta, but at the first Atlanta race in Talladega this spring, he got top 10s. The 43 cars went back in many ways, but their super speedway speed has not. And I think that that's something that's going to be very important come Saturday night at Daytona towards the end. While he might not have the teammates or affiliates to help him out, Jones is a very accomplished super speedway racer, and I think that that is going to come in handy at the end of this race. From one Aric to another, let's look at Aric Almirola. Now, if you look at Aric Almirola's finishes, you're probably wondering, why the hell do you have him as somebody interesting to watch? Well, I don't blame you for thinking that. He hasn't finished any higher than 18th this year in the super speedways and only has 2 top 10s in total of these 10 races. But in the last 5 super speedway races, he has led 11 or more laps in every one. 36 at Dega last year, then he led 16 in the 500 this year, 17 in the first Atlanta race, 11 at Dega earlier this season, and 46 laps of the Atlanta summer race. If he can stay out of accidents, this 10 car has proven to probably be the best of the SHR Fords at super speedways, and I think that he can be a real threat to win this race and maybe have a great swan song season with just this win alone. And then there's AJ Allmendinger. Allmendinger finished 3rd in the last Atlanta race and did pretty well in the Daytona 500. Kaulig does have some good, fast pace at super speedways, and I think, again, if he can stay out of accidents, he will be a good wild card to have up there. Alex Bowman is the other interesting character. He did finish 5th in the Daytona 500, but after that, and after his injury especially, he has not been the same driver. He will have that Hendrick power, and with that desperation, Bowman has proven before to be pretty clutch when need be. I think that he could get the win, but of his Hendrick teammates, I think he is the lowest probability outside of Kyle Larson of winning this race. So, looking at everybody from 16th on down, because remember, 30th place is not the cutoff anymore for making the playoffs. I think there are 3 drivers going for the win in this one. Daniel Suarez, Aric Almirola, and Erik Jones. Again, they might wreck out, but these are the guys I think that'll have the pace. In the middle pack, guys that could go either way, well, that's a huge list. There's Chase Elliott, AJ Allmendinger, Bubba Wallace, Justin Haley, Todd Gilliland, Ty Gibbs, Alex Bowman, Austin Dillon, and Corey LaJoie, who was good last year, but not as good this year on them. And then there's 4 that I think you should just stay away from, if it was my opinion. Yes, they have had speed before, but they just do not have good luck. These guys are Harrison Burton, Ty Dillon, Chase Briscoe, and Ryan Preece. Now with that, I'm going to pass this on to you. What driver around the cut line or well below it do you think has the best chance of making the playoffs with a win at Daytona? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support, and until next time, have a good one.